and tidy edited down video, but I have ways for you to make it faster. You can click that little gear on the YouTube settings right there on the video and adjust the playback speed, make me sound like a chipmunk, and it'll go a lot faster. You can also look and see if there's timestamps for this project in the description, and if you're on a desktop, you can hover over the time bar at the bottom of the screen and see if it's chunked up into chapters, and then that way you can go directly to the step you're looking for. And lastly, you can also tap on the screen on the right hand side of the video picture or on the left hand side to make the video jump ahead, forward or backward if you're on a mobile device. And you can adjust that amount in your settings so you can have complete control over how much it jumps. So if you are on a desktop, you can use the fast forward or the rewind, and that will make it go faster as well. You can also enable subtitles, and the little CC on the screen will enable closed captioning. That way, if I am a little bit harder to understand with that double playback speed, the subtitles might help you out. All right, well, I know that it's not a nice little edited video, but if you sew with me, we'll get there together and it'll be lots of fun. And now for the live stream. Happy sewing! Hello, what the heck? Did I bonk that? Hello, hello. Sorry, it's a little bright right now, but when we have the fabric on there, I think it'll be good. Hi, Danny. Hi, Terry. Hi, Hannah. How are you? I look kind of like I'm chopped off at the shoulders. Hi, Julie. Hello, hello, hello. I was just pulling up the links to the pattern in the fabric, just in case anyone's curious. We're going to sew this all the way through. We're making the teddy top. Sorry, so bright. So bright. By Style Arc, my first Style Arc pattern. And I'm doing it as a live stream. Well, I mean, I only do live streams unless someone hires me. Hi, Kathleen. Hi, Susan. How are you? I made my cheat sheet. See, this is how I like my directions. See, they're even more brief than theirs. We're going to get it. But I need an Australian or a Kiwi to join the chat because I have a question about a term, a sewing term that I haven't heard before, which is kind of cool. All right. Hi, Deb. Hi, Anna. How are you? Welcome. Welcome. I do not like how bright this is. Where's my viewer count thing? There we go. We got our alert box. Yeah. Let's just take down the brightness a little bit. This is too much for you guys to have to deal with. A little bit. We'll put the paper over here. And I can zoom in too. Hi, Mary. Welcome. Hi from California. Hi, Beverly, another Canadian, 2 in a row. Hi, Lindsay. What does flat stitch? Does that mean understitch? That's awesome, Anna. I love that. I think, like, I know people really like detailed instructions, and I'm not against that at all. But I do think that sometimes when you're sort of challenged to like understand it and put the things together in your head, it makes you realize, A, you know a lot more than you realize, right? Like, you can do it. It's not a pattern company's job to teach people to sew. It is really nice if they give you kind of like a, hey, this is how we do this. Or tricky things like maybe a pop over placket, you know, something like that. You're not sure what flat stitch is? Okay. Hi, Wendy. Maybe we'll get another Aussie or Kiwi in here. And I think like it's only when you're sort of challenged that you start kind of going, wait, I know what this is supposed to look like. I know what this is. This is what this means. It's okay. I can do this without detailed steps, you know. So, hello, Marie. It's nice to see you all. So we're making the teddy top and, okay, first of all, you guys. Hi, Edel. How's it going? Edel or Edel? I gave you this big old speech about collar markings and how the collar is usually notated upside down to how it will lay on the body. So it's very common to cut your collar upside down. I think even Barbara was like, but aren't you cutting it upside down? What happened? Because the hearts are not right side up here. What happened? Did I flip the fabric over at the last second? Both of them are like this. I guess I'm wearing the collar popped. You were right, Barbara. I was like, yeah, well, the collar to me was right side up. This is right side up, right? But the fabric was not. She did. You've purchased a few Charlotte, but yet to sew them. The directions definitely are sparse, but they do have some thoughts. Yeah, that's, oh, there's some sew-throughs, Yeah, great. It means understitching. Okay, cool. That's what I thought. Because that's where they say flat stitch is where I would put understitching. And the thing was, the first time they mention it is where because they like you to pre-assemble all the little parts and then put it all together. And I'm gonna follow the directions exactly how they do it. I would probably do it in a different order, just because I don't know, whatever, my own reasoning, it doesn't matter. But just in case someone out there would like to do it in the same order they're doing it. But the first time they say, you know, don't flat stitch this, I was like, what does that mean? Does that mean don't understitch it or don't top stitch it? And then when I thought about why, I was like, oh, it's because the collar can go up or down. And then they literally said that. So I was like, all right, yeah, no understitching there. So yeah, right, Terry? Wow. I can't believe that because whatever. Anyway, so yesterday I fit this. It didn't need a whole lot of fitting. I decided that the top length was too short to me. I will pull up some pictures. Hart's Fabric. Oh, let's put that on this. Oh, who's this? Oh, good. Hart's Fabric provided us this project. Hart's Fabric is a fabric store in California. They're very kind to us, and they send us projects. They're always asking what you guys want to see, and they give me the whole project. I sew it all up and then I send it to them and it sits in their store. This year they said I could keep anything I wanted, so I got to pick out the fabrics too, which is cool. Unless they were like, there's not enough of that or something, because I was at their store in May, which was the first time in a few years. So, and they give you guys 10% off. So here, I'll make this a little bigger. It'll save you a little bit. So there's the code. I put it on the screen because putting it somewhere written, like in the description, would mean that it would get compromised and they would have to give us a new one, which has happened before. So, anywho, they just started carrying Style Lark patterns and they have a really good selection of them. So I was going to show you. Oh, I didn't check this microphone, so hopefully it is fine and dandy. If you're new here, you're seeing my computer screen. That's why it looks kind of kooky, because I have a lot going on. So here's the teddy top. And this short length, it looks a lot longer on her. Like it looks like 3 inches longer on her. On me, not so much in the front. So what I ended up doing was I kept the length of the top in the back, but I lengthened the front 2 3/4 inches. And so then I changed the facing. So I wanted to stay in the spirit of the teddy, looking kind of like, it has this like swingy little A-line. Mine pokes out right here more. Like, I don't, you see my plus sign. So yeah, it's got a little sleeve band and you can wear the collar up or down. Let's see, here it is up, here it is down. So this is what we're making today. And here are the fabrics. I'm using the Vessel and Rayon Navy, and they have it in this earth color too. So yeah, that's what we're doing. Let's see, is that the last chat? We ready? We're gonna do the whole thing today because I decided that Saturday I'm gonna sew the laundry basket pattern, which is my pattern because I need one. My daughter has requested one for her birthday, so I'm gonna make that. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do the collar. I've interfaced my pieces. So this one has interfacing on one piece. So we're gonna sew the outer edge here. This is actually a pretty easy way to put on a collar because it's going to be sandwiched inside the facing. I think one thing I wish I probably would have done yesterday was added some seam allowance for French seams because I do like French seams, you know. Why can't I see the chat? Oh, because I made that bigger for you guys. I'm like, where'd you guys go? All right, I'm just going to pin this because it's rayon, and rayon, you know. Rayon is rayon. So yeah, so I've got my serger hooked up, which is super rare that I actually sew something with a serger. I usually just do French seams. That way, if you don't have a serger, you don't need a serger. You don't need to do French seams either. This thing is so stretchy. Are you seeing that? Like, I want to show you how stretchy it is, but I don't want to stretch it out anymore. So, all right, my machine's on. And maybe we'll zoom in a little bit more so you don't have this huge white thing over here. There is nothing like a good French seam. Someone asked me on my difference between French seam and flat felled seams video the other day. What did they say? They said something like, is it wrong that I just want this to be on a curve? The way they said it was, I was like, well, why is this too zoomed in? We're going to leave this here because we don't need to see the machine, but I would like to see the needle more. There we go. And I was like, no, of course not. And I made this really nice reply and gave links to, like, here's where you would sew a French seam on a sleeve. So that's a curve seam. And here at this timestamp in this live stream, this is the length I went. This is where you would do a flat felled seam on a sleeve. And I gave some other tips. And I realized, like, after reading it, I was like, were they being snarky? Wait, were they being snarky and I missed it? Sometimes I detect snark in everything. Sometimes I'm like, so naive, you know? Brand new needle. We aren't playing around with this rayon. I'm winding a bobbin, so if you hear the squeak, apparently it sounds like a mouse is in a hamster wheel winding it for me right now. Some bobbins squeak, I don't know why. No, I'm not winding a bobbin. What's squeaking? I'm not winding a bobbin. I will probably need to after this. I don't have much on the bobbin right now. So look, see how this is acting? Because one side is interfaced and one side isn't. So yeah, I get this too. And I'm just trying to sort of ease it in there. I'm kind of holding it and kind of spread this out. And I sort of just hold it in place. You can pin it too. I think that that's great. I don't think, for me, I find that harder because the pins won't let me move stuff around. So, yeah. Right, Anna? There you go. I was like, whatever, I stand behind my comment. It was a good comment. All right, you know what? I bet this was supposed to be 1/4 inch seam. It took me forever to find the seam allowance. Yeah, neck and collar, 1/4 inch seam. We're gonna leave it. 1/4 inch seam on this, not 3/8. I'm gonna trim it down a little bit. Oh yeah, that's a smart, that's actually a really good tip. I do sew a little differently on camera because the white interfacing sometimes looks too bright on camera, and I was thinking like maybe it would be a little bright since I already have the exposure for the navy blue fabric. So thank you for saying that, because that's a good tip. Put your uninterfaced side toward the feed dogs. All right, so don't understitch this. I know you're rushing off to fast forward right now. Don't understitch it because the collar can be worn up and down. We're gonna go iron it. So I'm just gonna press the seam first, like this. I like to press the seam flat before I, what happened here? Before I turn it and press it the way it's gonna stay. It'll behave a little better if I do that. Doesn't matter which direction. It just matters that you are trying to tell it, hey, we're gonna need you to do a little bit more here. I got a little bit of wrinkling right there. So now we'll turn it. And it'll want to fold right on this edge a lot nicer because we ironed it open first. This is fiddly. I'm just going to tell you guys, like, if you're fiddling, it's fiddly. Also can't see chat. I think I'm gonna clip this little curve right here. I'm gonna go turn the computer so I can see chat a little bit. Nice, welcome. All right. These scissors are still good for this. That's good. They're over here kind of in my, if I have to use a scissor over here pile, they aren't my go-to scissors. So I'm just clipping this curve so then these little guys can overlap each other when they're folded to the inside. Because this seam allowance right here, right, like once this is turned to the right side, all the seam allowance has to go like this. This is how it's going to live, right? It's going to live on the inside. So it's good to clip that so that all those little edges can now lay on top of each other. And I want to fix this right here. Ran is so funny. It's like, sure, I'll do whatever you want, but I'm only going to do it once. And then after that, forget it. If you iron me one way, don't change your mind. You know? Hello, Elena. How are you? How's it going? How's it going? In between meetings? Guys, I know your guys' work schedules. It's really funny. Okay. All right, so now we've got our edge clipped. Look at that, that's so much better. Now it wants to fold right along there. We want a nice smooth curve because remember, we're not going to understitch. You could top stitch it, I think, if you want, but I'm not going to at this point. Let's look and see what's going on over here. This is the under collar. So this little area here, see this? This is kind of weird, right? So we're gonna kind of pull it apart here, and we're gonna be more intentional. So because I used a slightly larger seam allowance than I was supposed to, I may have a little trouble getting it to fit into the neck, but I got this. So most of the seams are 3/8 of an inch. It says neck and collar are 1/4 inch, which is exactly how I like it and how it should always be on all patterns. So it's kind of funny that I got foiled. We want to see the seam on this side. And right now I see more of the seam on the right side. So I'm just kind of, I know you probably can't see that. I like to just go like this. I'm doing this. I'm pulling it like this, and it kind of helps pick up only the top layer. Sewing is mostly fabric handling. See, I just kind of scratch it. All right. All right, let's see. I kind of wish this pattern piece was smaller because look at that. Boy. Yeah, it's pretty wavy. Not gonna lie. Okay. All right, so I think this one we can stay stitch around the perimeter if you want, or around the neck edge. Yep. 2 outer edges of the collar to hold in place. Wait, press and sew a stay stitch around the 2 outer edges of the collar to hold in place. This isn't the outer edge, right? This is the neck edge. This is the outer edge. I just sewed the outer edge. Oh, they call the seam a stay stitch. Wait, no. Stay stitch around the 2 outer edges of the collar to hold in place. Be careful to stretch that no one wearing this garment, the collar can be turned. Huh. I'm just going to set that aside right there. Right there. Okay, so now we're going to do our cuffs. I put my bin in order of how it all gets sewn. And basically, I didn't do the sleeve bands. They're not really cuffs, but the sleeve bands. I didn't do these on the bias. So treat these really carefully if you did do them on the bias because they're probably really fiddly. So we're just going to sew this seam right here. I'm just going to cut that off. Oh, that's good, Anna. Yeah, I think that is really all sewing can be, is just how do I make this do what I want, and why when I did it in this fabric it was easier or harder, and now it's the reverse, you know. All right, let's go over here. I'm going to press this seam open if I can. I love that they sew the cuff exactly how I would. So you sew it right side to inside, and then you turn it to the right side and turn under and clean finish. Okay, so I'm gonna press this in half. So remember, if you're doing the bias, be really careful. It's gonna want to do crazy stuff. I didn't have enough fabric to do the bias. I'm doing the center right here, and then I'm actually gonna pin it right here at that center notch, so that now when I fold the rest of this, I can kind of shake it into place. See, that was pretty easy to do. There we go. Edges are all lined up. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, let's get the cuff. I'm looking forward to this top, like having it in my wardrobe. It'll probably be a few months. Maybe I can get it back before I go to Sew Expo. I always like to take these folds and sort of place them one on top of the other, you know? That way I can sort of, yeah, like handle it, you know, handle that fabric. Get the notch lined up one on top of the other. If you did this on the bias, I'm making this look really easy right now. I feel your pain. I truly feel your pain. I've done crazy things with bias cuffs where I'm like, this time I'm gonna interface 1/2 and just about pulled my hair out. So if you're doing, if you want, you could interface this cuff, but like I would do the whole thing. I wouldn't do half. I have to admit, I'm kind of hoping to sew this so that I don't have to cuff it. I don't have to roll it up. I think it'll look fine because I don't like fussing with stuff like that, you know? Okay, so here's our cuffs. Yeah. Handle the fabric like a boss. So here's our cuffs, right? We'll set those aside. We're going to do our facings now, and we're going to do the shoulders. And the center front seam. So I'm going to do the center front seam of the facing. Do not do your center front seam of your bodice. Like I was saying before, like it's a pretty nifty way they're going to do this because we're going to put the collar on to the neckline with only the shoulders of the body sewn. And then after we get that collar on there, we'll do the center front seam, and then we're going to put this facing on to clean it all up. Anytime you're doing a collar with a V-neck, you know, troubles be ahead. But we're going to do this so that we're going to minimize that. And we're still going to get a nice finish. So I'm just going to press all these seams open. And you know, I'm going to probably overlock this perimeter edge here. I got a little wrinkle right there. I have wool under my ironing board cover, so it sort of retains the heat. So sometimes I can just kind of reposition something, and it's all good. All right. So here's our facing. So we have our center front seam. Here's our shoulders. And right now, I'm going to put my label like this on here so I don't forget it. This helps. All right, facing set aside. Next, oh, they want you to do the side seams of your hem facings. Mine are navy blue because I didn't have enough fabric. All right, so this is the front, and it angles down, right? And this one's the back. So the back is a U shape. The front is a frown. So smile for the back, frown for the front, all right? Don't flip it. You'll be you won't be able to get it together onto your garment. Oh yeah, I noticed, oh look. Okay, you guys, when I went to interface this, I was like, this fabric is all kinds of crazy. No matter what I did to get it cut out nice yesterday, I had to recut something. I think it was one hem facing. And so I noticed that my fabric fell short right here. So if I fold this in half, right, it falls short. So I decided to draw in the seam allowance so that I would remember this and it would kind of be like, okay, we need to put our seam in a different spot on that. And I'm going to put the notch there. So I didn't have really enough fabric to make it perfect. All right, so when you line up seams like this too, when they're at an angle, you see how this is hanging off? What you want is to line it up at the seam line. So here is the seam line, right? So don't line up your raw edges like this, right? In fact, they won't even match. And you'd be like, which one do I go to, right? What, do I slide it down here? Do I go up there? Mine is probably not perfectly cut, obviously. But what you want is to line it up on the seam line. You're going to have this little point hanging off like that, right? So here's the seam line. Because then when you open it up, you get a nice smooth transition, right? And if you didn't do that, if you sewed it to where the raw edges were lined up, you'd have a jog. See the jog right there? So always line up your seam on the seam line. I say this a billion times because it is a really simple thing that a lot of even really people that have been sewing for years still don't do. But see that like that? So then when we open it up, we have a nice smooth transition, except our seam allowance, which is fine. You can trim that to match. Fancier patterns will have the seam allowance shaped. Like when you cut the pattern out, it actually looks like that, right? With a little angle down. I don't expect that on most home sewing patterns unless it's like a coat or a blazer or something like that, because then they're sort of indicating to you, you're going to be pressing this a certain direction. Yeah, exactly, Terry. Yeah, shoulder seams are a great example of it. And then you're like, wait, my shoulder seam is like, you know, off like this, right? It's like, you know, like this. Instead of like this, like one on top of the other, they're jogged over. And then if you leave it like that, you're trimming on both the outer shoulder and the neckline to make a nice smooth line there, because you have to be able to sew your facing or your neck or your collar to it or your sleeve. And then you're like, why is this thing fit so funny? Why couldn't I get the collar on there? Why couldn't I get the sleeve on there? So we're suddenly here after, yeah, right, that's me. I really think that when you're learning something, or even if you're not learning something, maybe it's you don't realize you're learning something, because that's usually like sometimes what is happening. You don't realize like you didn't know something. For me, I know that it does take a bunch of times, and it's because I'm absorbing all these other things. I can't absorb everything. So it is like once those other things are kind of like mundane, I know that information, I hear that those other 5 things, I'm like, oh, that is important, you know. So, all right, so we're just doing our side seams on this facing. We're going to set this aside. And now we're going to start sewing our garment together. These are the last 2 pieces in the bin. All right, so this is the back. Here's the front. So we're going to do the center front seam. No, we're not going to do the center front seam of the front here. We're just doing the shoulders. I got confused because I was looking at something else. All right, so we're going to put this right sides together. So here's our neck, right? Here's that little jog right there. Am I zoomed too far in? And we're going to line up the shoulders. And we're only sewing those together. I think we're going to do the side seams too. Not quite, no. Yeah, right? I see that it comes in like a mustard color too. I could put a link in the chat to it. Let's see. Yeah, check out this other color. It's pretty cool. I was like, oh, I like that. I actually think that color is a little more modern too. This one's a little more safe. Okay, I'm just putting my shoulders together. And I don't have enough for, I mean, I could probably pull off a French seam. You know. Now we're getting into territory where you do want to start finishing your seam allowances. So I'm going to put these through my serger over here, which is right next to me. At some point I can pull my serger over there if you want to see the serging. I spent probably 10 minutes trying to set up my serger today. Oh, that's awesome. I know they have a really great selection of clothing fabrics. Okay, there we go. Got our. One thing I found that when I was setting up my serger, I was sort of gearing it to sewing one layer of rayon because I knew at some point I would, like when I do the facing. And I thought, you know, I should just make sure this is good for one layer, which isn't the easiest to do with one layer of rayon. In fact, where is my facing? I'm going to do the edge. I found that slightly, if you have the option, you know, like a differential on your serger, which will gather things up, usually you can do it the other direction too, where it slightly stretches things out. That helped a little bit to kind of make the rayon a little bit more manageable, you know, like all kind of going together good. I think the drawback for that I found, I'm not a serger expert, I experimented, was that it felt a little bit like it made the stitching kind of denser, which the rayon didn't really like on one layer. So I dialed that back, and then I was fiddling with the tension of my loopers, the two right hand cones of thread and the two right hand loopers. And I was thinking that I needed to adjust both of them, but you know what? It turned out it was the second from the end. That one made the biggest impact. So I also put the width down to the smallest because it kept bunching up the fabric inside there, and that's why also like I was like, why do I have to have this at the smallest? I don't really want this at the smallest width. But it's bunching up, and that's when I fiddled with the tension of those two outer cones. So there's lots of things you can do. And we had a Serger Confidence, I think it was an SBS in the Guild. And that's what I just show, like play with stuff. You're not, as long as you're not fiddling these knobs as you're sewing, you aren't gonna hurt anything, you know? Just don't go from 0 to 60 in a second, you know, like do little bits. All right, let me finish this outer perimeter edge of the facing real quick. Yeah, it's like, it could be a little better on this one layer. It's these curves, man. So from the end, yeah, from the right. Yeah, I think so. You've never used the differential, Julie? Yeah, I understand your comment. All right, so here, see, look, a little bit of messiness on my curve there. I kind of hesitated and let it idle too much there. So when you see some of this stuff, press your perimeter edge, it'll look a lot nicer. Camera problems? Why are you saying camera problems? What's wrong? I mean, I'm using the serger. I didn't pull the serger over here because we're going to do most of our sewing on the straight stitch machine. So if you want to see me serge, I can pull it over or move the camera. But I was just doing the perimeter edge of the facing because now we're going to do the collar to the neckline edge. So we're going to put a stay stitch in first. And remember, this edge here is at an angle, so this right here is the neckline. Do you want me to brighten it up a little bit? And remember there's this notch too right here. So let's just talk about this just for a second. Let me get a pen. Sorry, my foot's on the pedal. This Choco liner is like 1/8 of an inch too short. So is this even going to show up on camera? No. We'll use a marker. All right, so let's draw in the seam allowance because when you're doing these V-necks, they're kind of persnickety, you know? So let's draw that in. Why is that so faint? And then let's do it on this edge here. I think knowing where this intersection is kind of sheds some light into why it seems kind of tricky. Oh, that's awesome, Rob. This is my first time. So do you see how low the intersection is down here? This right here is going to be your finished V-neck depth. That's why that notch is right there. So when you're doing a V-neck, if it's a little bit like, you just kind of want to keep it up here, like right, you're thinking, oh, I need to keep it 3/8 of an inch away from this edge right here down. No, because you have a seam allowance here and you have a seam allowance here. This right here is your final neck depth. And when I did the video about sewing rib collars onto V-necks, I draw it on there just to illustrate this as well, because I know that especially with knits, it's really hard to get your V not only in the center, but not going like that, you know? So, all right, so that is why this notch is so low. They mean it. You're sewing your collar down to there, right? So we're gonna stay stitch this neckline edge. I rarely stay stitch, I will admit. And you know what? This is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I know people like to stay stitch on the outside of their seam allowance, but I don't because it leaves needle holes. So you can tell I haven't sewn a lot because look, there's oil. Yeah, that is a tricky spot. So we're gonna do just inside the 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm holding it up because, are we sewing? Oh, we finally ran out of, I knew I was going to run out of thread, but I already have a bobbin waiting. And one ready to wind over here. I went with black thread because it looked like 10 times better than the navy blue. I was kind of surprised. I had navy blue all pulled out and then I was like, dang, the navy blue looks kind of terrible with it. Pretty dark. All right, let's try that again. It's my last little bit of bobbin thread there. Or it's probably the top thread trying to sew without a bobbin. Could probably press my shoulder seams to the back. I'm keeping it nice and loose so that it doesn't stretch out along this center front V. We're going to press the shoulder seams to the back. I forgot it was 1/4 inch seam. That makes more sense. The notch was a little higher, so there you go. Good example. I am always like, please give me 1/4 inch seams on neck and collars. They finally do, and I'm like disregarding it all the time here. Sorry. Ooh, my chair is just not happy with the mat it's on. All right, let's see. Here's our collar. Here's our collar. And I'm gonna try and stay stitch this neckline edge here. I'm gonna just pin it in a few places, and I'm gonna do it like Terry suggested, with it on the underside. Kind of get rid of some of this fullness. I'm kind of pulling it up right here, like that. How many of you have this pattern? Sounds like Rob's made a few. I know, I think it was Danny. Danny, you got this one, right? All right, let's see. How do we do underneath here? See, I have a little bit of, let's see if I can show you. See that ruffled edge? Hi, Leah. My trusty all. Right here. You have it? Yeah, okay. Can you see that? You can't, it's really hard to see. I'm trying to show you that. My underside is puckered too. Hi, Rachel. How's it going? I'm going to trim this off right here and right here. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me. It could. All right, so now we're going to put this on the neckline, right? Stay stitch, collar to neck. Yep. And I'm going to start pinning from the back. Put the center notch at the back here. And here's a shoulder notch, I think. There's quite a few notches on the collar. Hoping I remember to notch them all. So if we were here and here, it's pretty good. Let's see. Some may think that you're talking about your collar, but I know you well enough, Julie, to get the double entendre. We know you. Exactly, Leah, right? Okay. This fits really easily. I think the stay stitch is helping. I have this extra hanging off the edge there, and that's probably because of my stellar cutting skills with the rayon, right? Spicy. Yes, spicy. Okay, so I'm gonna look at where these fronts are landing first before I stitch it. Because I'd rather them be symmetrical than anything else, right? This one's a little bit shorter. This one's going to that edge there. Let's go like this. Yeah, I'm not surprised. It definitely seems like a tricky spot. And I sewed my collar together with 3/8 inch seam, so it's already a little smaller. But it's gonna be all fine. It looks really loose, and then, you know, kind of bend it over, it'll be fine. All right, let's sew it on. 1/4 inch seam. Hello, Eliza. Rayon is definitely a bit slinky. I'm kind of staying just to the left of my neckline stay stitch on the collar. Let me brighten it up for you guys. And I'll zoom in a little more. Come on, there we go. Let's see. I'm zooming in, not out, thank you. There we go. A little brighter. I'm gonna go like this, and like that. I gotta remember not to blind you guys when I lift it up. All right. Okay, so we have our neckline. It's a lot of shirt, just kind of straightening it out, because I sort of just sometimes focus on only the area that I'm sewing on, and then I let the garment kind of twist around itself. Just looking at the shoulder seam, making sure it's still pressed towards the back. Okay, here we are at the beginning. Make sure we're not catching anything else. Okay, let's look at our center front here. Let's see where we're at and how symmetrical it looks. Pretty happy with that. So remember, when we're looking at it, we need to enclose all this with our seam allowance. So we have our 3/8 along this edge, but we have a 1/4 along this edge. All right, let's get all these pins out of here. Make sure we don't have any big tucks. We do have this right here. This kind of slipped below. So let's pull this up and fix it. Right here. I'm using size 14 needle, but I'm using an industrial machine, so I don't usually go below that. I did not change my pressure. It was fine, but I checked it. I spent most of my time before the stream adjusting my serger, and I was saying how I was trying to adjust it to be able to overcast along one edge, overcast the edge of one layer of rayon, because I feel like that's the hardest to get right, And I knew that I was considering overcasting some of my seams and pressing them open. That's why I did that. I don't think I said that part, but let's see here. Let's get this lined up like that. And so I found that if I twiddled with the differential, but stretching it, not pulling it in, and the cut width and the spool of thread, the looper that's the second from the end, that looper, as far as my tension dial goes, which is it's the looper that doesn't go over the edge. Not a serger expert. Those gave me the best impact for my serger setup. There we go. It's a little better. Kind of going fast, so, my edge looks a little sloppy. All right, so now we're going to do our facing. Oh, we're actually going to do the center front seam, aren't we? Collar to neck, center front seam, press open. So I'm going to overlock the center front edge on both of these. So if you need to finish your edge, I'm going to overlock this first. Because we're going to press this seam open. Where's the other one? Let's see here. There's a lot of shirt. Here we go. All right. I was thinking today that maybe I should change my needles in my serger because it's been a bit. Okay, so I've overlocked the center front edge. Get rid of some of this. Let's just take a gander at the neck seam on the right side too. Make sure nothing looks crazy. Or, you know, like sometimes your fabric will kind of slip down and get caught. You get a little tuck. Solve it now. Don't not look. Okay? I know how tempting it is. It's so much easier to deal with it now if you just look now. It's okay if you find stuff. I find stuff. So see, if I hadn't done my differential to stretch it a tiny bit, this would be a little bit drawn. You ever see that with rayon? I find that will happen. I think I could have spent a little more time adjusting this, but I'm pretty happy with where it's at too. All right, so I'm going to stack my collar right here, one on top of the other. And we're going to sew the center front seam. Serger is so heavy for a such a lightweight fabric too. It's just so much thread, you know. The serger looks okay. I think it could be better. It's not too bad. All right, let's go press this seam open. And our next thing is going to be the neck facing. And I'm going to clip that neckline as well once the neck facing is on there. You can see I have a lot of uneven edges here, and I know about that. Because remember, I had that one collar that was a little bigger. So let's do the center front seam. This is going kind of quick. This is going so quick. There's so many pieces, I'm kind of surprised. I have a little jar down there. Oh my gosh, you guys, I keep forgetting to tell you. I just noticed the other day that my iron was close to my squirt bottle and it melted it. My cute squirt bottle. No bueno. This iron is so hot. Such a bummer. Why couldn't it melt the starch that I never use? You know? All right, so a hammer might be appropriate here to kind of mash down the thicknesses here of this juncture. Yeah, like, I don't know. I think that what I don't like is that it's really easy to let that under collar show. And I think if you're doing a lighter fabric, it's going to be a lot easier to control it. Right, Terry? I thought it was. The back stitch. You know, Julie, have you ever seen that little technique where you start and then you flip the piece over and then go? because that's what I love doing. I can show you at the end if you remind me. I'll show you, because I've been practicing that for like a year and I'm getting pretty good at it now. You just got to know like when to do it, you know, like I don't have to do it on these because all these seams will be enclosed, so I'm not too worried about it. But other places, you know, like where you might see the end, that's where I focus on doing that. Okay, so let's get this on here lined up. Our V is still looking pretty good, like it's all lining up nicely. This was the wrong pen to pick. All right, where's my label? Where are we putting the label? Are we just putting it on top here? Like this? Is that what I want? Or do I want it to hang under the facing like that? I think I might do that. I think that looks a little nicer. So let's see, where's the center here? This is the center. Let's get a crease down the whole line here. Yeah, but like these right here, Julie, yeah, like this is where I went on and off. There's a lot of ways to do it. And there's a lot of really nice ways to do it. I just don't really want to spend the time on some of them, like threading them through a needle and weaving them in. My hat is off to those folks. Someone just bought a 10-pack of these. I'm like, I love this one too. Okay. All right, so let's see, the center, right here, right here, right there, okay. And I think I should sew it on this side so I can see all my stitch lines that I have right now. Hey Aisha, how's it going? Yeah, I do think, yeah, it would be nice if you could back. Same with a cover stitch. Cover stitch, I would vote for cover stitch over the serger. Or just all cover stitches should be like my old one, where you don't even have to do all that faffing. No, no, industrial sergers don't have a back stitch. Julie's shouting at me. No, but the industrial sergers don't have the same issues that a home serger will have. You don't really have the ends getting kind of haywire. So like, you know, like when I clip my end of my serger, right? And then you start having these two threads like coming up off. And so if I tighten this and I trim it, it might do it again. It'll just do it now with these. See, they start spreading apart. An industrial serger doesn't do that. It's locked. All right, we are sewing this probably at the wrong seam allowance. All right, so when I get down to this neck here, what I'm doing is I'm sort of arranging it so that it's in the V shape like this, right? So I'm not doing this. I'm not pulling it open like this. It auto-corrected my name. What did it auto-correct it to? Let's see. That's the right way you spell my name. So that this way, when I pivot, it's going to pivot it in the way that it's going to stay. And we're going to pivot it. Let's take out this pin underneath here, right in that seam. It's nice when you have a seam because then it leaves no question on where the center is. Whereas if it's a fold, you got to kind of like draw a straight line down, you know, right along the fold. Because you can't really trust it otherwise. Man, my lines are all kind of crazy. I apologize. I'm going a little quick. Too quick. Yours is going to look much nicer than mine. All right, so I'm just making sure that I'm staying along the raw edge, and I'm not folding like right there. That felt a little suspicious right there. Did I just get a little fold? I'm gonna actually take it out and check. Yep, I did, look, see? I didn't pin right there, so I was a little nervous. Take out a few stitches here. Back it up. Can I just grab the stitch? Is it too much to ask? It kind of is, honestly. Where is it? Right here. There it is, okay. Just looking for those stitches. There we go. I felt it happening. We need to go right here. Okay, now I can sew. It's because I pulled it around to stay in the curve of the neckline. I poked my finger really good with one of those pins just now too. All right, same thing here. See, the facing is curved, so we're just trying to get it to lay nice and flat. Did we already sew this? Oh, did we already did this. Nice. Yeah, but you have a free arm, which is nice, so you can actually go like this, which is great. So I think it just depends on what you really like, you know. Flatbed machine is nice, but you have to, it's a little fiddlier. I'm just used to it. All right, let's check, okay. Because we're about to get to the forever hold your peace moment, and we really don't want to be seam ripping on navy blue, right? So we're just checking everything, making sure there's no other tucks. All right, so now we're gonna clip. I feel like they don't tell you to clip, but they must. I have the directions sort of trimmed down. We're gonna clip no matter what. But yeah. Yeah. Clip the collar, clip the neckline though. Make sure you don't have anything else. Don't let this loose slip down here. Sorry, it's so bright, huh? I could trim it down too. It looks kind of messy. I was sort of managing that one edge that wasn't cut straight. See, look at this. That facing's not as, sorry. My seam allowances are really bad. Like, this is the worst I've seen them in years. All right, so we have to clip this. I don't know why you wouldn't. I'm gonna reinforce that point though. Reinforce this point because it also could get a little bit of strain there. Okay. Oh man, it is so messy. All right, so now we need to flip this to the inside. This is when it'll be a little bit difficult to, yeah, see, look, this is not gonna flip. You really gotta clip it down into this thing. I'm gonna trim this a little bit here and here. All right, so we go iron And then we are gonna understitch, right? Hello, Reynolds, how's it going? Where's my salami? Oh, here it is. I might need it. Oh, let me turn we might be ironing for a bit. All right. So let's just maybe, let's see, what's a good first ironing step? Trying to think, maybe I could get this a little bit more. I think this maybe just tugging like this will be good. So I'm going to tug the under layer and tug the facing, and this right here is the collar. We want this to be stacked right on top of the outer, that neckline edge. So far, so good. Let's get to these tricky bits over here. Let's press our shoulder seam while we're here. I find just giving it a nice little tug will help all those layers stack right on top of it. I keep pulling that out of my way. Here we go. I'm just sort of trying to get it into the shape of the neckline. So right here is my neck seam. That's why I'm fussing with it a little bit. Here's the collar sticking straight up, right? I'm gonna put this under here for this bit here. And again, just tug, tug for these really curvy areas where there's a lot going on. Fabric management, right? Trying to get to not touch my iron there. Thread there. Sorry, I'm being really fussy because this is a curved neck and I really want my facing to lay flat to the inside. So I'm just positioning it in that final position. So here's my collar. See, there's my neckline. They really do. I'm sure I could stand to use a few others, but you know, definitely not couture sewing. Mad respect for that style of sewing. Okay, a little tuggy tug. I think facings are a very good way to clean finish. You can get a really nice finish, whereas sometimes binding in these areas is going to compromise it all laying nice and flat because the binding itself isn't shaped. The facing is, you know. The facing is shaped to match the neckline. All right, let's get to this little fussy area here, and we'll probably have to flip it to the right side too. So we're gonna get this nice and flat in the neckline shape. Pull our collar up here. And we're gonna pull this down. gonna try and tug, tug, tug. Tug down here. Lining up my seam of my facing here. And see, I'm just really tugging that little bit of collar I can get here. All right, let's do this side here. Tug, tug. All right, it looks good on the inside. Who knows what it'll look like on the outside? So let's do a little flippy flip. Not bad. All right. I do have a little, like the undercolor looseness is kind of like buckling right there. Now that I know how this goes together and how things are gonna react, I think that gives me such a great strategy for how to deal with things. It looks cute, right? Here we go. All right, so now I'm gonna focus on this little tuck though. It's the collar. I'm gonna focus on securing these facings to the seam. So we're gonna line up this seam to the seam, and we're gonna stitch it all down the neck, the center front and the shoulders to secure our facing. Right, Terry? Yeah, it's just the way to go. You really can't expect, sorry, it's so bright. You really can't expect perfection on your very first one, you know? So when you're doing your first one, really, I would rely on things like the techniques to do it because you're unfamiliar with the construction, right? All right, so let's understitch this facing. So we're gonna press the seam allowance toward the facing. And start here. I'm just pressing this is the collar right here, and this is the facing, and I've pressed the seam allowance toward the facing there, right? Yeah, I think that's, like, you know what I think what would be really great is a cotton lawn, Danny. I think a cotton lawn would look really good in this pattern. Or a chambray. I'm doing a lot of hefty wrangling. What is that sound that I just heard? No sounds at the little juncture here. What the heck? All right. So I think a chambray could be good. The only thing I worry about is that chambray can be a little bit like linen. But, you know, the thing about linen is that it's also flexible. Like, you can make it do what you want, you know? Yeah, chambray would be really cute. Yeah, exactly, Anna. Wait, what? Okay. I felt like I was stitching on something else, you know? Am I making this look too fiddly? It feels really good. It's all going together well. You have to remember, my cutting wasn't the greatest, and I kept doing the wrong seam allowances on the collar and the neck. Oh, without the collar facing on the outside. Is the facing supposed to be on the outside? No, right? Okay, yeah. Because there was one instruction I was like, why aren't we clipping the neckline? And it kind of made me go, did I just sew this the wrong way? So. You guys are straight up talking about chemistry when you're talking about cooking. All right, so now we're going to secure our facings. See, am I still in the realm of the directions? Yeah, okay. So when you do that, like see how my collar is like flipping up right here. So this right here is my neckline. This is the facing, that's the shoulder. Right here, I'm just orienting you. So I'm making sure all of this is nice and flat in the curve. This is really important because when you secure this facing down, the seam might not line perfectly up with the seam that's underneath it, and that's okay. It's more important that you make sure this is all laying flat the way it wants to, because otherwise if you pull it weird to line, like you force it, you're like, no, you're lining up to the shoulder. What can happen is you will cause a weird little pull in the inside of the garment, and you'll see it on the outside. It'll just look funny. Easy to fix, but you don't want to have to, right? So, all right, so we're getting all this, see this nice and flat right here in the curve, right there. I like to pin on either side because I'm going to stitch in the ditch from the right side. If you don't like stitching in the ditch, though, I'll show you another method. So, because some fabrics are pretty noticeable when you're stitching in the ditch. So same here. Let's get this nice and flat. I did okay. I could have done better here. I think I could have. But maybe next time I will use the actual seam allowances. Wink. Oh, yeah, exactly. Me too, obviously. All right, so here's the center front seam, right? So I'm going to stitch through all layers. I'm going to pull it apart. So here's the seam. I'm going to stitch right here to secure that facing down. Don't worry about where it lands on the inside. No one's going to see it. It will probably not land in the seam on the one on the inside, you know? That's okay. It's more important where it lands here. So I'm going to pull this apart and try and get my needle right inside that seam. And you're probably not using the thread I'm using, which is a little heavier than it should be, because I'm using like a Tex 40, I think. And usually home is Tex 27. Okay, so we got that, see, secured. Let me snip off my little back stitch tails. And now for the shoulder. So if you don't like doing a stitch in the ditch, let's do this one. This one actually, the shoulder seam lines up pretty good. What I usually do is I just pick this up. You have to be really firm with it. Once you get it positioned, be really firm with it, holding it. And now we're just going to lift these two layers up. And you can just stitch in the seam allowance here. Right? You just need a few stitches. So if you're doing like a fancy fabric or a fabric that you don't really want to add some needle holes to, I just sew on this little edge, so I'm just going to take out these first two stitches here. Keep that nice and flat, not folded over like that. Or maybe you were doing a contrast thread and you're like, I don't want to switch to a non-contrast thread just to do my shoulder seam, right? And so then this way it's secured inside like that, right? Rather than from the outside. It also keeps your shoulder seam looking, if you really want to be picky, I know if I say this I'm going to change your mind about using it, but it makes it look more natural, right? So this one we'll stitch in the ditch. Where is it? Right here, okay. I couldn't even see the shoulder seam. For some reason, you know when you learn to sew or you're working with someone who's learning to sew and they are so afraid that when they use the sewing machine, their stitches are going to come out. Like they're so afraid of that. So they take the stitch length really low, like so it's really close together and you're like, don't do that, it's really impossible to seam rip. But they're so worried that it's just going to come unraveled, right? And we all know now for sewing, like that doesn't really happen. But for some reason, the stitching facings down in the shoulder, even if I backstitch it 3 times, that seam comes undone sometimes and my facing will flip out again. I'm like, wait, I know I secured you really good because I was worried about this particular thing happening. All right. So now we're going to do the side seam here. So we're going to just fold these right sides together, and this is a cut-on sleeve, so we're going to do the underarm of the sleeve, which is an inch long. So, oh, that's pretty cool, Wendy. Yeah, yeah, I think cooking is science. All right, let's get this lined up here. See, here's on the side seam how this is angled this way and this one's angled the other way. So we're going to stack it so that the juncture is right at the seam line right there. Let me look at it here, not the camera. So now we just have our cuffs, our sleeve bands, and our hem facings. This is a very well finished garment, you know. Like if you wanted to do some things that maybe make it more budget or make it faster to sew, you could probably lengthen the sleeve and skip the sleeve band. Or don't, you know, leave it kind of a shorter sleeve. You could also, if you wanted to really struggle with the hem, you could hem the bottom, like how I marketed that, and skip the facing. If you do that, do a narrow hem, it'll be easier. It won't be that hard, but those are two options that would cut down on some of the details to make it overall a little quicker and less fiddly. Because you spend all this time on the collar, that's really the showpiece. All right, so I'm gonna overlock these seams. And then we just have our sleeve bands and our facing here. And I could show you, Julie, what I was talking about with the, here, I'll show you real quick. So bright. Why can't I just have a really easy button to dial the brightness down, man? You know? Just want a button. Not all streamers are gamers. So zoomed in. Okay, the lighting's really nice with the navy blue though, huh? Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that's true, Barbara. The bicep measurement check is, oh, why are you saying that? Is it tight? I did feel like the sleeve was close fitting, but I feel like the cut-on sleeves, they work better when they're sort of close fitting. All right, so Julie, this is for you. This is pretty unnecessary on this seam, but we're just gonna do it just to show. Let's try it on this easier end. So say you don't want that tail hanging off. You wouldn't do it on something like this that's going to be, the hem facing is gonna enclose this, but we wanna overlock this whole edge, right? This whole side seam right here, but we're gonna start pointing the wrong direction, right? So we're gonna start a little bit and just sew a little bit. And then when we get to the end here, we're going to the needles off of the edge once. I have to lift my needles to be able to flip it. And so now I'm gonna lift my presser foot up. Don't let this get away from you. Just kind of pull it toward you like this, right? I'm gonna cut this little tail off, this huge tail off actually. Oops, geez, that wasn't good. All right, and so now we're just gently flipping this under here. I kind of shake it to kind of get that edge a little more straightened out. I kind of go back and forth because I want that edge to be flat right there. And if I get a loop of thread, I will pull. Here, I have 4 spools here. I pull on this one here and this one here, those 2 right-hand ones. Get rid of that loop. I get right to the edge. I don't think I did a very good job, but we'll see. Put the presser foot back down, and then I start sewing again. Don't trim anything. Don't trim your threads you just sewed. You don't need to do that. I'm gonna trim this right here where it went on, but that's it. And then see how nice and tidy it is? So, it's okay. I didn't do the greatest job there, but you get the idea. Now, if you want to do it at the end, it's kind of the same thing. So we're going to come down here. I have this really sharp curve there. Working down. Put the needles off one stitch. If you don't have to lift the needles to flip it, great. And then I flip it again. I shake it a little bit to get it flattened out, and sometimes I'll even use my awl if I can reach in there to kind of flatten it out. Stiffer fabrics were great doing this, by the way. If you get a loop, pull on your 2 right-hand loopers. And now make sure you don't cut any of the serging you just sewed, okay? Which is harder than it seems, especially on this wicked curve here. So, not bad for the curve I just did, but you see how it is. Let's cut my seam here. I mean my thread. So there you have that finished edge, no loop there. I went off in this curve area, so not ideal. But yeah. So I do this at the end of flies and plackets sometimes. Anything that's going to be hanging free that has a serged edge, you know? So, as opposed to just going like this. You know, with the tail, right? So it takes practice. Like I've literally been teaching myself that occasionally here and there, you know? So, and I would start in something more like rectangular and stable. Stable and rectangular. That's what we like. All right, we got our side seams sewn. So let's do our sleeve bands. Yeah, here's another one. If you really didn't want to do the clean finished look and you don't plan on turning your sleeve cuffs, you could just overlock these on. I'm going to say it because that would be a budget way to do it. And you could, I'm assuming this goes down here and this one goes up here. You could just, you know, sew it on. And then I would top stitch the seam toward the body of the garment. I think that that would be fine. We're going to clean finish, though, the way they say, because I like doing that, too. All right, so the trick here is wrong side to the right side of the cuff first. But I just want to make sure, like, does this cuff go... Oh, it's supposed to go like that. So it's going to go like... Because of this little angle, if I don't turn it, it is going to stick out. Well, that's okay, though. All right, so we're going to put this... We're going to open it up too. We'll just open this up, right? And we're going to put the angled end toward the underarm, right side to the inside of the garment. Boy, please, my kingdom. Okay, here we go. And this is the front of the garment, so I'm pressing the side seam toward the back. And then same with this here. There's a notch there. Goes like that. And we're going to sew this on. It's a lot easier to do this if you do it this way. If you start with from the inside and go to the outside, because you can finish on the outside where you can see everything, and that's the visible side to everybody. So you can make it how you want it to look, rather than trying to blind catch the inside. People do that. I don't. My mad respect. I don't. There's no reason to do it that way unless you're. I don't know. I don't know what the reason would be. The pointy bits on the shoulder. The pointy bits on the shoulder. Really? Well, shoot. Shiver me timbers. No, it's not. Wait. Well, shoot, you're right. Why? How would it turn back on the underarm then? I know it's supposed to fold up, but I was thinking about it like this. Like if this has to, right, so here it is, right? If you had to fold this back, the angle is here. There's no way this would fold back on itself, by the way. Can you see? Sorry, Style Arc, but So even though this matches here at the seam and seam here, I mean, maybe you're right. Let's just try it. I mean, yeah, it does the shoulder better, but it doesn't do down here better. So if I don't plan on folding it, what do I like better? I don't think I want it to wing out at the top. I don't think I like winging it out at all. Maybe I could just get rid of the wing. Man, I hope you're right. I hope that this, sorry, let me grab my microphone real quick. Let's do a bicep check. Rob might be right. Check this out on the bicep. Okay, we're totally fine. I don't like the wing. All right, so let's take this out, and let's take the wing out completely. But Rob is right. You want the wing to go to the shoulder if you plan on folding it back on itself. Man, I have my stitches seem like tight. Like the seam ripping has been a struggle today, hasn't it? Good thing Rob is here. Okay. We'll take this out. This has been a pretty low seam ripping day. God, did I really just say that out loud? I drafted myself a button-down shirt yesterday when I shouldn't have been. I should have been working on something else that rhymes with encyclopedia. I can't wait to sew it now, and that's all I can think about. You can't find the emoji? Here we go. Rip, rip, rip. Yeah, I don't think I could do the seam ripping on the other side. All right, so I'm gonna not fold mine back. I just know me. I know me. So this is how I'm gonna combat this little whoop-de-doo right here. See this little whoop-de-doo? We're just gonna go straight. Straight across. Like this. Right? The lining shows through. What? Oh, good. I'm glad you said that, Rob, because I was afraid that you were going to be like, you might not want to plan on that, because I had already cut this thing off. All right. I'm just taking out a few stitches so I can pseudo press it open again, like this. Like that. And then now we have more of a straight cuff. Where's my other one? Here it is. Okay, and now we're ready to sew again. Oh. Oh. That is such a bummer, Terry. Good thing you noticed, you know? Yeah, that's crazy. Did I not? I really didn't. Yeah, okay. I didn't catch the thread when I trimmed it. Kind of crazy. There we go. I like using my awl sometimes because I know then I won't pierce the fabric. Every now and again on one of my videos, I just did like, when I was trying to experiment with how to do YouTube shorts, and I was trying to think of short things to make a video about, like making a video in under a minute for me, that's really hard, right? So one of the ideas I had was, oh, I'll do like holding a seam ripper. I occasionally get people like kind of upset that I do it that way. And they will say, no, you need to hold it the other way. So I hold it like this, right? So when I do a seam, you know, I'm going like this. And I say, you know, don't go, you know, don't do this, you know, right? I do that sometimes. They say, no, 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 if you insert the ball end in here and do it. The thing is, I can never get the ball end in there to even try this. I've tried it a few times, so I respect that the people love doing it that way, but they don't have to be, you know, kind of snippy with me about it. Like, if it's one thing I know how to use, like seam ripper, you know. I've made plenty of mistakes myself, but it's kind of funny. The proper way to use it, I'm like, Me too, Terry. I didn't even want to say that because I knew people, that is fighting rules with people that are very staunch, use the ball end. Yeah. Yeah, people and their rules for sewing. Okay, so the other reason I thought that this angled end was at the underarm was because of the seam. But you know, you can't get that angle if you don't put a seam there, so that makes sense. All right, so I am doing this a little differently as far as my lining up goes. This feels, why is this, okay, let's just, here we go, okay, here we go. Press the seam allowance toward the back. I'm pressing the seam open. If you are going to use the little cuff and fold it up, you want the point at the shoulder. Exactly, I was so mad too. See, Elena has the opposite experience. So I really think that there's so many ways to do things, and it can be literally just like how you hold it, where you put your pressure, what brand seam ripper you use, you know. So yeah. Back off, haters. Exactly. I know, right, Hannah? I know. There's a couple people that that have been sewing for a really long time that really dislike the term hack. Pattern drafting is not a hack. Sew with love in your heart, right? And a seam ripper in your hand. I'm teasing. Okay, so there we go. See, right side to the inside of the garment. Me too, Hannah. That still is one of my very favorite streams, is when you all sent the all the hacks to try. That was really fun. That stream took so much prep. Like, I just had people DMing me on Instagram, emailing me video links. I don't think I had the guild then either. And so everyone was sending me the, like, can you like prove this works or doesn't work, like, videos. It was hilarious. And like what was the straw for? I can't remember what the straw for. Right. Exactly. Break and remake. Exactly. What? No, you don't use the... Wait, use the spout hole to punch... Wait, I just saw one that was like, you don't have to peel the seal off a new bottle of ketchup. Just take the cap off and use the spout hole to puncture a hole in the seal. Is the ketchup have like a pointy spout? Oh, like the flip cap kind? No, that's too messy. Your cap will be all messy then, and you'll get dried ketchup on it. Ew. Yeah, just peel off the freaking, yeah. I think that is what is the genius behind the TikToker Kabi Lame. I don't know how to say his name. But he, like, I remember watching this one. This is the first one I ever discovered of him. And it was like a sped up video of this gal, and she was squeezing like 3 tubes of toothpaste in like a glass like pump jar. And she added water to it and shook it all up, so then you could just pump the toothpaste onto your toothbrush, right? And he goes up and he's just like, he just picks up his tube of toothpaste and squirts it on his toothbrush. He uses it. And I'm like, exactly. He just created so much extraneous stuff to manage and keep up on. And all of his videos are like that, and they're genius. This cracks me up. We really like to, I feel like that is such a, you know, you have time and money when. Oh God, the cap, yeah, like leaving the cap there, the seal on, oh yeah, I'm with you, Hannah. Oh my God, yeah. All right, let's iron this. Yeah, that kid's name, you spell it Khaby space Lame. If you want to look him up, he's on TikTok. He probably does other things now, but if you scroll back on his thing, it's like video after video of him being like, why would you do that? And he doesn't say a word. His little facial expression is adorable. He's just like, okay. We're just pressing this. I really should be using my salami, which is right here. So I stop pressing the other side of my garment. So now I'm just pressing the seam allowance toward the band. Yeah, sometimes like maybe something you're doing isn't the greatest thing, like it's not the most fun task, but you really just, you know, you could do it a different way, but honestly, why? You know, just it just works. It's sometimes they're just trouble. Some things are just a pain, and that's just how it is, and that's okay. It's okay. I feel like raking leaves is such a good example of that. Like when we first started having to rake leaves, I was like, there's gotta be a better way. No, there is not a better way. You must use a rake. And you must scoop them up somehow. So yeah. There's a better way, right? You have the wait, is it a vacuum, of leaf vacuum? don't want to melt my U-line straw. There we go. Or I mean my air compressor straw. I'm going to pin this under the machine camera. Pay other people to do it. Now, I do like that suggestion. Leaf blower. Yeah, but you got to still like do something with those. All right, so now the only thing I'm thinking about right now is clipping right here at the seam, at the underarm here. I'm just clipping it to relax it a little bit. Right there is where I clipped it on the seam allowances. And we already have this crease in here from before. So now what I like to do is I'm going to pin along this fold. See, so this fold right here, we're going to let it relax and we're just going to pin along it. Yeah, that's what I remember you saying. See, that there's always something. And that's the thing is like there are really great ways, but you might have to buy expensive machinery or something. Exactly. Power tools have their own. Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, our leaves do stay pretty dry. We don't quite have the weather things we have to watch for like you guys do. Oh, so is it like we have one of those, Wendy? It's like a the beater bar in a vacuum. Yeah. But we're actually going to try and sell it because our method's working, our good old-fashioned method. We got it really to pick up what I call itchy balls. I'm sorry, that's what I call them. They're the pokey things on a sycamore. They're huge and they're so gnarly. They never break down, and there's so many of them that we just have to rake those. You settled on paying other people. Yeah, they really can just get in there and make quick work of it because they have all the implements and tools. And they need to pay for those things, right? Teasels. That's such a better word. My husband straight up gave me the craziest look when I said that. I was like, what do you call those then? I've called them that since I was a kid. All right, so now I'm folding under this edge. And just past the seam that I sewed. See, here's my little folded edge. Sorry, it's a little dark. Folded edge. The reason I pin along the fold here is then that way I know I'm going to not over rotate it, like over pull. It makes it faster, this part, and it just feels a lot better. Yeah, they're terrible things. They're so pokey. There's some that don't have like the things that stick out that make them pokey, but ours are pokey. Or pokey balls, like people call them that too. The year before last was such a big year for those things. That's amazing, Elena. I love that. It has a wedge on, it has a wedge that reminds me of oh, in the front. Oh. That's interesting. Huh. We have a full-on tractor, and we have, we have a old riding mower. I think the best way to do it, because our weather is pretty mild here, is to do it every week. I think the best strategy is keep up on it. So it doesn't become, because even when there's just a tiny bit, you're like, I'll skip this week. And then you're just regretting that because then the big wind happens and you're like, oh, great. That really tiny amount just became an astronomical amount. Okay,
So I've got this pretty much pinned in place. You can iron it if you like. I don't like ironing this edge down before I sew it, because if you don't get it quite right, you're kind of fighting an ironed edge, and with rayon, you know, rayon's kind of a pain. So I'm going to leave it inside out to sew this. I'm going to start at my underarm, which is right here. And because I don't have a free arm, like I think Leah was talking about the flatbed versus a free arm machine, I don't have a free arm. But if you do, you could put this right side out and then put the sleeve cup over the free arm of your machine. I have a flatbed, so if you do it inside out like this, you can see everything without catching your shirt underneath. And when I sew this kind of thing, this is why I like to pin along this fold. I know now I also won't get any torquing, because we don't like that around here, or torquing. I pull kind of firmly too. So I'll take it and pop that little folded edge under there like that. And I sort of hold it firm and stitch right along the edge. Oh my gosh, really, Aisha? Oh my, why would they do that? You get the bulk of your leaves from Neighbor Street, yeah. I cleaned the gutters out the other day, and I decided to take our little blower. We have a little leaf blower, just a battery operated kind. Well, all of them are battery operated, I forget. We have solar, so we use electric batteries and stuff. But it's a lightweight one, like a little light duty one. I took that up on the roof. I kind of loosened it all up with the end of a rake, and then used the blower and was like, oh, this worked pretty good. All right, so here we go. So we don't really care where it lands on the inside because we've already secured that, but it does look pretty, you know, fine. And then on the right side, we have our finished cuff. Sorry, this fabric is so dark. Keep doing that to you guys. Oh, that's perfect, Elena. That's the way to go, is to ask your neighbors, because then they're more likely to take you on too. You get to your blowers all day, yeah. All right, so here again is at the underarm juncture. I'm just going to clip it on either side of the seam to kind of relax it a little bit. And then we're going to fold it to the inside. Well, to the inside, it's the outside. And I'm going to pin along this folded edge again, just like a 1/2 inch in, so it's not in my way. I do this on sleeve cuffs and collar stands too. Collar stands when there's no collar. And, thanks, Ray. Yeah, it's turning out good. What time is it? It's only 1. It's going together pretty quick. We just have our hem facing after this. All right, so now get these going. I push the seam allowance in there, turn it under. Okay. Oh, they stopped doing that, Elena? Oh, I think they do that in the town near us. The problem with that is that you have to wait sometime. They only do like 4 pickups during the entire leaf season. They stopped street sweeping and they do that instead. So sometimes the leaf piles get so big because it'll be like a month before they come. And you know, then it'll rain and oh my God, it's a big old gooey mess. Every week. Right now, our neighbors, remember I was telling you about the neighbors that he has a mine, like a gold mine, like further into the mountains from here. This is gold mining country. I'm like literally in the like California gold rush area. And he has a mine, but he has a house on my street that he bought after us. And I've seen him mill lumber, like legit make lumber you would build a house from a log. Like I couldn't believe that he was doing that in his yard. He had all the equipment. And now I think he must have picked up a contract for part of like rebuilding Paradise, because he's been pouring all these concrete forms and it sounds like a freaking industrial park and it's awful. I hate it. I'm like, I did not move here to hear backup beepers, which is not, it's not zoned for that. So it's kind of a bummer. I hear chainsaws all the time, like where we live. You know, like that's just a part of, you know, keeping the brush down and taking care of things. But, and our neighbor, and our property is really interesting because we have a creek on runs along either side of our property. It's 5 acres, like a big rectangle. And it's bordered by 2 creeks, which is really cool. But it also creates a lot of living stuff. And every animal known to California comes on our property, good and bad. And, but our neighbors, they live in like next door to us, like across the creek. It looks like a volcanic area. They have like all these rocks equally spaced all over their yards. So you can't mow, you have to like weed whack 5 acres. It's crazy because there's so many of these rocks. But my neighbor, he's a go-getter. He is like, I'm removing all these rocks. He has the biggest pile of rocks, but that's all he does. And he is quieter than the guy over there pouring concrete forms and stuff. It's nuts. So I know like living in suburban areas, all you hear is like landscaping. And I remember my friend after the fire having to live down in the town after living in Paradise. She was like, oh my gosh, is this what it sounds like on your street? Like someone's always getting their lawn mowed and like blue blowed. I'm like, yeah, we weren't used to it either. So yeah, that noise, I feel like it should only be on certain days of the week so you can count on some quiet. Here they do it on Friday, and I usually do like a skill building session for the guild or quick fit or pattern chatter, and they're doing that. So yeah, he is very interesting. I'm trying to be really nice about it, but I'm kind of feeling not so nice lately because it's 7 a.m. It's just the beepers start. But he can do some crazy, crazy stuff, like the stuff you never get to see being done. He has the most interesting array of machinery on his property. And he is the concrete that they're pouring are these huge, like, I want to say they're like 4 by 4 by 4 cubes. And they're meant for something, like they're probably like foundation pieces, or maybe like for, I don't know, there's tons of them. But they like they just leave the concrete truck there at their house, in their yard. So, all right, so there's my other little cuff. Ooh, 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 we just have the hem. We just have the hem. So excited. So yeah, the millwork, when I was like, Michael, he's making lumber in his yard. And he's like, oh yeah, I saw. I'm like, no, he's like making lumber. Like 2x4s are coming out of it, like 2x4s. And they were bringing trees from up here after the fire. So a lot of the trees that went through the fire, they're just not good for lumber. You can't use it. It's compromised. Trees that look alive are still compromised by heat or something like that. You can even have a tree burn from in the inside and the outside look okay. It's weird because, you know, like sap lines and things like that. There's a lot going on with tree health. And he was getting a lot of the free trees. And some of them he would turn into lumber, and he would use some of it for like his mine that's out there in Concow. Concow is one of the areas where they have mines, and so he was using it to like build the structure inside his mine. And he like lives out there usually most of the year, but not right now. All right, I'm gonna take this to the ironing board just to make sure I get this oriented good, and that I make sure that my side seams of my facing were sewn the correct way. I bet you guys want to see this little top. Huh. That's looking cute. I want to see it too. We'll put it on the dress form at the end. I'll try it on and put some pictures on Instagram. I wore jeans today. All right, so let's see here. This is the smile. This is the frown. Okay, there we go. We got it. That is right? No. Oof. This is it. There's the side seams. We can just tell by the side seams, right? Isn't one longer? Yeah. Which one's longer? Okay, this is the, here we go. It goes like this. Okay, good thing I did that. You gotta make sure, you know. This, I get to keep this eventually, Julie. It'll be at the store for a bit. Okay, and this is the center right there. Why am I doing this like this? This is wrong. This is wrong. It's right sides together. It's right sides together. Sorry. Oi. My goodness. Let's just start again here. Okay. This is the narrower one. Yeah, here we go. Okay, like this. Okay. Phew. We could press the seam open, or I could press it towards the front and press my side seam toward the back, and that would offset the thickness. Oh, Barbara spotted it again. Yep, thank you, Barbara. Barbara's on fire in a good way. This is when I like to blame it on live streaming, because, you know, people are like, I don't know how you can do that. I'm like, oh, it's not a big deal. And then I have that and I'm like, it's the live streamer. All right, so everything's looking, let's make sure, because you could probably put this on there and it would almost lay correctly, but it's not. Okay, we're good. We are good. All right, where's the center here? Here. Give me a pin. There we go. All right, I'm just gonna do the landmarks. It is a cupcake, and this one's a pie slice. Priorities, Wendy. We're all about cupcakes and pie around here. Kind of. We're all about black licorice around here. Someone sent me this black licorice from Amsterdam. Total surprise. And I really love Dutch style black licorice. So I was like, oh, I hope I like this one, because I just love it. I usually like it, and I'd never had it before. And I feel like I've had every kind of black licorice, and it was amazing. It was amazing. I was like, oh shoot. And so I brought the box home to my husband to translate. He speaks a little Dutch, but he speaks fluent German. And then I went and looked to see if they have it on Licorice International, and they do. So, yay. Because otherwise, I would have been hooked on something I couldn't get. Do you? Oh, you like black? Oh, yeah. Those will do for me in a pinch. I went to the Jelly Belly factory once, and I think the black licorice one is like their number 3 selling jelly bean. Number 1 is popcorn, though. Yeah. Our life shoe. Oh, what do I cut and sew? Oh, the cupcake and the pie slice. Yeah, that's my pattern. It's on my website. Yeah, and there's videos for it. I used to sell them, especially the pie slice. I was known for blueberry pie. That was the one. Okay, so here we have this misaligned piece here. So it's actually lining up. I don't think it should. There we go. See, you have the wrong seam allowance. You can just make sure you still sew it in the right position and it'll be okay. All right, the last thing we need to do here is we're going to understitch this, press it, and I think I really feel like we need to clip this curve though. We need to clip this curve. I don't know, there's been a few people lately not clipping curves. I am not naming names, but there is a beginning sewing video that I was looking at. There is someone I've recorded videos for a long time ago. They didn't have you clipping the seam. You guys do this, right? Like, how do you get it to lay flat if you don't? You've been needing a nice big, yeah, check it out. This one I added the magnet to the bottom. So it sits on my machine because my machine's metal. The watermelons are just decorations. They have nothing to do with anything but being cute. Because watermelon's perfect. This one doesn't have you clip the seam either. Yeah, right, Elena? That, like, why wouldn't you say that? Like, I couldn't believe somewhere I watched in a beginning sewing video that they had a lining. It was like a lined dress. And when they sewed the lining to the armhole and turned it to the inside, they didn't clip the curve. And it was teaching you how to sew. It literally made me doubt things. I was like, wait, can other people get that to lay flat? There's no way. No way. I'm gonna say you can buy those magnet trays from the hardware store. Oh, that's true. Yeah, I just took one of my magnets from the pattern holders and hand stitched it on there. All right, let's iron this real quick. I'm going to overlock the top edge of the facing, so you won't have to watch me turn that under and stitch it, so don't worry. Home stretch, people. So I'm just going to press the seam allowance towards the facing first. This will be a lot easier if it's inside out. What did I do? Oh, I was way back here. Okay. All right. Someone bought the everything to make a laundry basket yesterday on my site. I was like, oh my gosh, I wasn't even trying to promote that pattern. But I shipped the stuff out right away. They got binding, one of the hooks, and some labels and the pattern. So I got it right away. I was like, ooh, maybe they can join me on Saturday, because I'm going to make my laundry basket on Saturday. And here's the fabric I got. Did I show it to you guys? This is it. So my daughter picked this out. Remember I sewed the diaper bag in this? This is the canvas version, and I'm lining it in this pink. So I'm going to sew that on Saturday. So if you like bag making, that's kind of what it'll be like. You can chill with us while I sew a birthday gift, because that's why I'm doing it. I need to do some of my sewing on camera for me, because I don't have much time. Okay, we got that all pressed. I have this one thread poking out the seam that I gotta make sure I deal with. Now we're gonna turn it up and press it. And we're gonna make sure we see a tiny bit of our outer fabric here so that our facing doesn't show. This is a nice finish. I love hem facings. But on the wiggly fabric, you gotta like, be careful. Doesn't one of you, shoot, something stuck on my foot. Doesn't one of you have the thing from the hardware store? It's like a telescoping magnet. I feel like one of you has that. Who is that? Is that you, Terry? I really wish I could put this around the nose of my ironing board right now, but it's kind of too far down. I can't get it on camera. It sure is nice using an ironing board again, though. I love the wool mat, but for clothes, it can be sometimes a little small. And this just makes it so I can be a little bit more like sloppy about it, you know, like my garment being on the board. I don't have to be perfectly precise on the wool mat. Not you, but now you're gonna yeah, if you don't like bending down and picking up pins, you know. If you have a magnet, you could just probably make one. This little thread here, where's this? There it is right there. Let's just pull it to the inside. Oh, okay, it's loose. Better yet. All right, now I'm going to, how far down do I have to be? Can this be on camera down here? Yeah, that's not too bad, right? You guys can see. That's all clipped, okay. Oh, we want to understitch. Dang it. Just when you thought you were done. I don't know what the expression. Oh, maybe Waywack has it. Maybe it wasn't an auto parts store. I thought someone said they bought, maybe it's cheaper there. You know, they like to give us the sewist tax. I just press the seam allowance toward the hem facing and I'm understitching it or flat stitching it, as I have now learned. It is called in Australia, which is, actually I like that term. Understitch makes sense, but I get the why it's called flat stitch too. It does make it flatter. What is this crazy camera angle today? I think it's this thing. This is kind of throwing me off. Oh, really, Elena? So I get magnets, these right here, they're super strong. Look at how strong they are. Oh wait, do I have another one sitting here? I do. I can barely get it off though. So these are so strong that they will, they'll do that. But that's how strong they are. So these are the like neodymium earth magnets, the rare earth magnets. I get these at a place called K&J Magnetics. Super cool site. They do have sew-in magnets. I haven't really used those though. They're pretty expensive. But just know that a really small magnet is plenty strong, obviously. Like I used those to hold, I used to make a pattern holder. It was my #1 selling thing for knitters. And you would fold it in a triangle, and when it did this, it was like a triangle, like an 8.5 by 11, it would hold an 8.5 by 11 page of instructions. Those magnets would hold it in that triangular shape. That's how strong those are. So you don't need big, you just need strong. This one I think is the B641. I think that's the number of it. Yeah, exactly, Terry. That's what, me too. I use those on my caddy over there. All my presser feet. I got that idea from you. They work great. Oh, they do, Helena. The knife block is, I'm picturing something kind of big. The typo. Don't worry about the typos. I know. I'm used to reading chat all over the place, like here and other places. I'm pretty good about detecting what you're trying to say, and I don't think that you're bad at English or grammar or anything. I just don't think about it at all. I am the biggest, one of my keyboards was so terrible for a while that, oh my God, it would just drive me crazy trying to get something typed in a chat. Okay, so I'm just gonna lay this down now and pin it in place, but I wanna make sure that I'm not torquing it or pulling it. So there's my seam, and it's lining right up with that seam, which is always nice to see. Oh, I need to overlock this. You guys, I'm rushing things. I need to overlock this edge real quick for the serger, for the facing. Let me just do this. I have a piece of tape on my foot. Come on. Oh, shoot, I got a little fold. Oh, well. Almost done. Okay. All right, now last step. All right, so sometimes when it's kind of pulls, I kind of go around and loosen it up a little bit so it's not pulling along that edge. I do it before I cut the threads too, because then it can kind of pull some of these threads into the edge there. Weird little things I do, and hopefully they're okay to do. All right, here's my center front seam. I can do this. Make it a little easier to pin, you know? Or I put a ruler back there sometimes to make it a little easier to pin. I'll tuck this tail into the edge when I go to stitch it down. My facing, you know, it was all sorts of wobbly. It's not as bad now. And if you really want a nice finish, you might even consider sewing this from the right side, because then you can focus on really getting just a parallel line to the edge right here, rather than sewing on the edge of the facing, which might not be parallel anymore. Hint, hint. You know what I mean, jelly beans. So this is a really wide hem facing, so I just don't want it to be any torquing on the right side. There we go, we're there. I think another thing you can do if you're having trouble getting this to lay flat is do that trick where I pin like 1 inch away from the edge, and then you can kind of adjust this without fear. So it feels loose. You could also edge stitch it. That might be a good idea. All right, let's decide. Do we want to stop stitches from the right side? So that means we're like way over here. And, oh, here it is. I like to use this tape. I need to get more of this. I love this stuff. This was kind of the, I'm just gonna put a little piece of tape right there. See? And then this way, when I do this on the, for like cover stitching too, I don't put the tape down, but I measure. And now I can just line it up along the edge there. I feel like my camera angles are really bad today. I can feel it though underneath. But this way we can ensure we're getting a nice parallel edge. This is a little trickier to sew though, I have to say. Because this is the loose side, whereas my facing is more stable and firm. I don't really like this. I feel like this is, I think I should have pressed it. That's what it is. Pressed it again so that this edge right here is really crisp. See, just learn from my mistakes. That's why I'm here. I'm really pulling, by the way, like my hands, that's why my hands are all up in the way, right? So right now I'm holding this and I am kind of smoothing out all of this like this. And I put my hand, like most of my hand on top to kind of hold it. Torquing. Torquing is when, like, say this piece right here goes this way and the garment goes the other way. And what you'll get is drag lines like, let me zoom out a little bit. I think the woman next door is about to walk in here. She's kind of a weirdo. I pulled my camera down. I usually try not to do that. So when you get those diagonal drag lines on your like collars, cuffs, waistbands, and it looks kind of like this. See how I'm pulling like this? That's torque. So it makes it so that when you're putting two layers together, they're not one right on top of the other, they're shifted a little bit. And then you get these drag lines, and you can't iron them out. It looks like you can. Same with like a placket or narrow bands and facings are kind of the most big problem with this. So when you're stitching on the top, at least you can kind of control what people are going to see and what you're going to sew down. And so that's why I was really careful I clipped the perimeter edge after I sewed this together. Then I pressed it, then I understitched it, and then I placed it very carefully around the hem before let's try and tuck this in, before I decided to stitch it down, because I know what these kinds of things can do. I don't know if you've ever encountered that, but if you have and you're like, everything I do, I cannot get this to lay flat. And it's usually because they're shifting sideways, opposite directions. So that's what torquing is. My chat used to tease me about how focused I was on it. And they also used to tease me about the way I say it. You don't have to do this from the right side. If you weren't watching, I'd probably do it from the underside. All right, so there we are at the beginning. There's our stitch line, right? No torquing. Just go take all these pins out now. Guess what? We're done. Exactly, torquing. That's what I say, torquing, and they still hear twerking. Torquing. Let me go get Trixie, and we'll put it on her. Let's press it really quick too. Yeah, look at that hem. Too bad I didn't have enough fabric to make it the right, the same fabric. Yeah, another thing to note about this pattern is that the yardage requirements are for 58-inch wide fabric, and I missed that. I think that fabric in Australia and in Europe is very commonly at wider widths, because I usually see their patterns only coming in one width, and it's wide. Let's do this a little bit more, this side seam here. This is cute, really, really cute. I would love to sew there or make their sewing videos. I don't know if they have any. Maybe they don't. Okay. Let's iron this a little bit. Get rid of this. That was a chopstick, I think, that fell out. And this one here, last ironing. You got to kind of coax these things, because look at all the weirdness that happens at the underarm because it's cut on. So can you see that? See all that little bit of wrinkling happening right here? That's because of the cut on sleeve there. All right, let me get Trixie. She's got my slope around on top of her. This was our original teddy. So this is the teddy without the length change. So you see how short it is in front, Hi, Sydney. Yeah, I finished this today. I just finished it. I'm about to put it on the dress form. So you see how it is really short. If you watch the cutting stream, I have a video of me wearing it too. I like that it hangs free in the back. I like the length in the back. And I think the rayon will be heavier and drapier, so it won't do this straight pleat thing. I'm hoping. But this is very short. This was like my waistband. So I couldn't lift my arms up. I mean, if you have a belly button piercing, this is the top length is for you. Show it off, man. You've got the thing, right? Okay, let's flip the facing under there. This is cute. Yeah. Oh, it looks so, the print looks so masculine on her. I love it. It looks totally kind of different. The facing kind of makes it jut out too. This is really cute. Let me get her a little closer. Move this, move this. Boy. Why do I have to be so far away? I have this panning, I think. You know. Okay, I think that is a little better. Well, you could, of course. Oh, you mean just straight? Yeah, I think you could. Let me make sure. I feel like this sits a little further back. Yeah, like that. That's better. Let me get the facing flat too. I kind of remember where the shoulder hit on my dress form, and it was a little further back. So, which does make it tilt up in the front a little more. The rayon is so much drapier. It really does do that little kick thing. Nice. That's awesome, Sydney. Oh, and then you can, you know, if you had left the cuff, you could cuff it. But I think, like, honestly, it's just not wide enough for that. So I'm going to leave it like that. Oh, and then if you wanted the neckline popped, like this. Yeah, the print is really cute. Here's it comes in 2 colors. I'm trying to be more informative about the things that Hart gives us because I forget to tell you guys. Yeah. Cool, I'm gonna try it on right after the stream. I think in a linen, I kind of want this in that green linen I have. Or a chambray. I'm looking at my fabric stash. I do have this like fun rayon knit that I haven't used because I didn't realize how big the print was. I think it's cute, but it's a little cutesy for me now. You know, this would be cute in gingham. I'm looking at my stash. So yeah. You'd have the front longer. Yeah, I made the front 2 3/4 of an inch longer. So if you want to see this, this is the top length, okay? So you can do the tunic length. This is the top length, and I made it longer in front, but I kept the back the same as the top length. Oh wait, no I didn't. Didn't I? I thought I did. Wait, this looks like straight up like the tunic length. Look at that. I thought I kept the tunic length, or the top length in the back. That's funny. Man, I'm a little confused. Okay. I don't think the linen would be tricky at all. Because you can, when you stay stitch it, that really stabilized it, you know? So anyway. All right, well, that's the Teddy top by Style Arc. What's that over there? Oh, it's a pattern. I was like, what's that hot pink thing? On Saturday, I am making my laundry basket. I'll give you a link to it. I'm not trying to sell it. I just want you to know what it is. Oops, why did I just Google laundry basket? That's really not going to help. I'm going to be doing this on Saturday. Where is my chat? Here we go. Here you go. This is what I'm doing Saturday. So, yeah. And I've already cut it out, so we're going to sew the whole thing on Saturday, if I can remember how to sew it, because I actually don't kind of remember how to sew it. Yes, I know I designed it, but yeah. Anyway, cool. Thanks to Hearts for our little project, and I'll see you guys Saturday. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.